Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tone Talk with Mark Uzansky and Dave Friedman.
Reverses an opioid overdose, even if you mispronounce it.
Everybody,
It's
welcome to Tone Talk with Mark Uzansky and Dave Friedman.
Is naloxone addictive? Reverses an opioid overdose.
You have our video open, right? There you go.
Oh, like
Nope.
That's you.
It's you.
pharmacy and pick up
You
some
gotta
over-the-counter.
mute
And if you forget the name,
the video.
reverses overdoses. They'll know what you mean. Get in
Don't
front
worry.
of facts
Just
right.
mute the audio on the video.
Oh my Lord, what is going on?
There we
Something's
go.
up.
Yeah, there was a
Hold
YouTube
on.
video open. Probably our video.
That.
Don't worry, I'll start
Wait.
over.
Are we all right?
Yeah,
We're
we're
okay
good.
now. Yep. We're not
Is
hearing
that
about
me?
the that was
Chaos.
you. Yeah. The,
See,
the
I'm the worst.
opioid epidemic and yeah.
Well, I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm sorry. I'm just laughing at my competence with this internet. It's if Julia's not here, if she was here, that would have never happened.
That's okay. We like it. This is
Don't
not
worry,
a
that's
scripted show. This is not an interview show. It's a
spontaneous.
shoot the
Really
shit
not.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
spontaneous.
well,
Don't worry.
There we go. Okay.
Well,
All right.
welcome,
Under-
Richie Kotzen, to the show, to
Yeah.
Tone Talk. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, man.
Uh,
I think I ran into Richie at Jerry Cantrell's birthday, and
That's right.
Oh, yeah?
that's when we hey, you should come on. I know you were also a few years ago on Pete Thorne's little thing.
Yeah,
I think you did a
yeah,
little
that
thing
was
with Pete,
a lot of fun. Yeah, that was a really good
and
one.
it's a similar kind of vibe and thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Rick,
Yeah.
Pete's out on tour with Joe and Steve Vai.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's out in
Yeah,
Europe.
Satch Vai band.
Yeah, he's having
Very
a good time. That's cool. Yeah. So where are you? Where you live, Richie? Are you in LA?
Los Angeles County since 1990, 91.
So you're
Yeah.
close to Dave. You guys are close.
Yeah, I'm very close to the beach. I'm very close to Zuma Beach, and
Oh, nice.
right in the heart of where the fires like to kick off.
That's not good.
Well, it's funny. I lived for many, many years in a house in the hill behind the baked potato. And so something clicked where I used to come out here, and the minute I got on Canaan and got through the first tunnel, it would be like, I felt very peaceful.
Yeah.
And started going on Zillow and like saving homes in the area. And then eventually, I ended up in 2016 buying the house that I'm in now. And my only worry coming out here, was fire, because I realized I'm out, and it's beautiful. I mean, look at my neighbors; they all have vineyards and all that stuff, so it's beautiful. And then 2 years in, the Woolsey fire kicked off. And that fire ripped through the canyon, went all the way to the beach, and we didn't know if we had a house for days. And then we found out the house was still there. Everything was shut down. The power lines burned. We didn't have electricity for a couple months, and so we did some work to the place and got it back running. So we went through the first one. And then this year kicked off with the Palisades and the other fires. So, it's a weird thing. I love being here. I'm not ready to leave. A lot of people are getting out of California, but I've been here since 1990. And so I don't know. I don't really want to go anywhere else. I don't feel like I need to. And I certainly don't want to be chased out of a place that I love. So, that's kind of where it is. I'm rambling now, obviously.
No,
but,
hopefully
no,
they
that's
can.
fine.
I hope they can control the fires. And
well, and then there's the insurance too. Now we finally got our insurance straightened out, so I feel pretty good now that we got proper coverage there. For a minute it was a little hairy, but now we're covered, and so that's kind of I'll cut right into it because it's the latest thing. That's kind of that really was the major factor for me doing this auction that I'm doing, because you know, I've got so many things that are sentimental that I collected over the years, and when the fire in the Palisades kicked off, I could see it, you know, from out the window, you know, if I looked down through the mountains, and you know, it was again worrying about, you know, things and stuff, and then so I thought, well, if I get through this, maybe it's time to kind of just shrink my footprint, so to speak. You know, there's over 100 guitars in this house, and so you know, I kind of thought, and amplifiers and memorabilia and things. I thought maybe there's a way to shrink my footprint and you know, present this in a way where there's fans that you know, might mean as much to them as it does to me, you know, but maybe I don't have to keep it here. You know, I can put it somewhere else. So that's kind of what spawned this auction that we kicked off on Thursday, and we'll see how that goes. But other than that, I love living here. I love being in California, and I guess this long rant, you asked me where I am, and I'm telling you where I am.
There you go.
Well, cool. Where can people find the auction at?
It's called Next Bids, and if you just the fastest way to it is on my Instagram. You know, they have the highlights, and so it's on there as a highlight. You just click that, the story runs, and there's a link. Now at this point, now I think you can just type in Richie Kotzen auction, and it just comes up. The company is called Next Bid, NEXBID, and my buddy Doug over there, Doug Stouffer, and we spent you know, a good couple months just going through stuff and figuring out how to do it. And I think this could be something that kind of leads into some other guys, you know, that are in a similar, you know, place as I am, that, you know, want to kind of get involved in something like this. So it's pretty cool. It's exciting. And there you go. You just brought it up.
There we go.
Yep.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. I saw some stuff already online. Folks were like, oh, there's that guitar that I cannot wait to buy or try to buy. If
there's a couple things on there that are pretty badass. I mean, you know, that Paul Reed Smith, I did a post about it today. I had that, you know, I acquired that guitar when I was 15. Now I remember I played serial number 2, the Paul Reed Smith serial number 2. I remember being 15 or 16 playing that guitar. The guy at the store had it, and then they got a blue one that I ended up, you know, my father bought it for me back then, and I played that guitar on and off live. I used it with a band that I had back when I was a teenager called Arthur's Museum. But, you know, it's a funny thing with that instrument because it's such a beautiful instrument that and by the way, the color changed over the years. When I bought that, it was a real blue aqua, and now it's kind of morphed into what you see in that photograph. But it was such a beautiful guitar that I always felt, you know, scared to play it because I didn't want to screw it up, you know.
Right.
And I used to do a lot of tricks when I'd throw the guitar in the air and whip it around. So it's a miracle that thing's in one piece, but it's in great condition.
That's cool.
And then the other one, there's 2 other guitars on there that are, well, the horror guitar they call it, and it's the one from the Fever Dream album cover. Yeah,
I think it's up.
That's one, and yeah, and then there's 2 of them. There's the one from the album cover, and then the one that you're showing.
I think there was one previously.
Oh. Yeah, on the first page.
Oh, something happened.
Yeah.
Here. Oh well, let me get back. So, you know what? That reminds me. Why don't, before we dive right in, let's do our promos. Okay.
Sure.
Let's talk about Sweetwater. Did you guys know that Sweetwater has the gear exchange? Have you checked that out?
I know.
So that is. This is Sweetwater's version of it's the used gear. You can buy used gear on the gear exchange, similar to what you would do at eBay or Reverb. And they've got zero seller fees, if you depending on how you ship it and sell it, and low shipping rates and legendary service. So it's really cool.
Well, they are great.
I already did a
Sweetwater
story.
is the best.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
I mean,
bought a
like
lot of
anything you need, and if something goes wrong, they're right there for you, and they're just right on the phone, and boom. You know, I'm sure you've bought all sorts of studio stuff and things over the years from Sweetwater, I imagine.
Oh yeah.
Just
I
a
did.
guess.
Oh, you're showing some of my stuff on there.
Yeah, so
Well,
that's
there's some used ones.
That's not my. That's somebody else's.
yeah, it's somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, that's cool though.
There's your amp. Yep. So you can buy used
How
gear.
much are they asking for that head? I can't see it.
It's $3,090.
$3,000 for that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
number 18 of 20. I guess it was a
Early.
limited release.
That's that limited one they did. Yeah, they did one where I autographed a brass panel. Yeah, I think that's what that is. That was years ago. They did that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So make sure you guys check out Gear Exchange. They have awesome gear on there, so you can go ahead and, like I said, zero seller fees. So, and that's important. And I think that's based on if you use what you earn from your sale as a credit towards Sweetwater.
To more gear on the
Yeah,
site.
it's more gear. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
They
you know,
go-
that works out sometimes because you got to get rid of some gear to get some new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it's funny you talk about that. Are you still doing the thing, or can I add something to this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
absolutely.
Because I have vintage Neve mic preamps, from way back when. But I'm not getting rid of those. But I'm just sitting here thinking, I could sell those and then trade that in for Neve makes a big, well, it's like a 10-channel desk, But where I'm going with this is I noticed like that board is like $60,000, but the preamps that I see them on Reverb. Guys are asking $36,000 for a pair of preamps, for a pair of Neve 1073 mic preamps.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Yeah. Prices have gone through the roof on everything.
Yeah.
I mean, just like anything you ever wanted, or even if you're into vintage amps or things, you look at the price and you're like, really?
You know what I have? You said vintage amp. Do you know what a Black Flag Marshall is?
Sure do.
Okay, so I have this Marshall from 1967, and it has the little black, and it's a super bass.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is it 100 watt?
works. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I plugged it in recently, and it works. It sounds great. I used to use it.
That's worth a pretty penny.
Yeah, I used it, I bought it in Dallas when I was 21 at the guitar show.
Oh man.
And I used it when I was in Poison. I had it in the studio. I took it on the road. I had this Bradshaw rig back then where, guys would switch channels. I would switch amps, and it was set up somehow so that the Black Flag thing was my clean tone, the plexi. And then I had a 50 watt 73, which I still have. That was my dirty tone. And then for the lead tone, it was a 900, but it was not the reverb model. It was the master volume model, which sounds different. For some reason, it sounds very different. And so the rig was designed with 4 412 cabinets. 2 in the middle were dry, and the 2 on the outside would get the delay signal, because I only really used delay back then. Somehow there was a load box involved that sent signal into those Marshall power amps. Do you remember those rack mountable power amps?
Yeah, sure.
They were really good looking.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of those. It was a crazy rig, yeah. Anyway, more.
I'm sure it sounded great.
Yeah, I liked it.
Oh yeah, why not?
Well, you can sell that stuff on the gear.
I have the vintage amps, but I don't have and the cabinets were purple back then. I had Marshall make me a bunch of purple cabinets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And the 900 heads were purple, but I don't have the 900s anymore. I still have the the Black Flag and the 73. I still have those.
Well, those are the good things to keep.
I was going to say those are the,
900s aren't that, whatever. But
the Black Flag. Don't get rid of that unless you have to.
Yeah, I have it.
probably a great clean tone, especially with a Strat or something, big, fat, glorious sounding. Yeah, for sure. So when did you what year was it when you joined Poison, or how did that come about?
Well, that was an interesting thing. So I got a recording contract with Interscope. I was one of the first guys they signed. And it was Jimmy Iovine, Ted Field, and Tom Whalley. And Tom came to my house in Pennsylvania, and because I was probably barely 20 years old at the time. And I was still living in PA, but I would fly to San Francisco to make those Mike Varney records.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a record called Fever Dream. It was my second record. I was singing on it. And Tom heard it, wanted to sign me. So he bought my contract off of Shrapnel Records. And as part of it, I gave Shrapnel one extra instrumental album that they put out, which is my third album. But immediately they moved me to Los Angeles. And then that year I started writing. I wrote with Edgar Winter. I wrote with Dwayne Hitchings, who did Do You Think I'm Sexy with Rod Stewart. I wrote with Robert Hazard and I wrote songs together. Robert did Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but it was actually originally Boys Just Want to Have Fun before Cyndi Lauper did it. So they had me writing with people, and I spent a year here. And at the end of the year, Danny Korchmar and I were going to make an album. I remember vividly going to Danny's house. He had just done Don Henley's record, End of the Innocence, which I loved that album.
Oh, yeah,
and so I met with Danny, and we picked out 5 songs of mine that I had written by myself. And then he said, listen, I'll write the rest of the album. You and I will write it together. So, and I was thinking this was going to be great, because back then I was real particular. I really wanted to produce myself. The label wouldn't hear about it. And so I loved Korchmar, his work, and I suggested him, and they hooked us up. And somewhere along the line, they put a budget in and everything. And in the last minute, at the end of that year, which was 1990, it had to have been 90, maybe it was 91. But at the end of the year, my A&R guy, Tom, backed up and said, you know what, wait a minute. I don't want you to make this kind of record. You're moving too far in a pop direction. I didn't sign you for that. You got to come out of the gate as a hard rock guy. And I kind of blew my top back then, because my heart and soul wasn't in heavy, hard music. It really wasn't. I was really into, the kind of stuff that Danny was producing. And I envisioned myself back then as more like Daryl Hall with a electric guitar, and the ability to kind of go off on a tangent in a jam session, so more soul R&B driven.
Right.
And so at the last minute, they pulled the plug on me, and I was devastated, and I kind of threw a tantrum. And in my tantrum, I said, listen, I'm not going to make any record for you, and you got to let me out of my deal. And my attitude was, even though I was dealing with big time players, I thought I was young enough that I could get out of the deal and find some guys that understood what I wanted to do musically, And so I said, I'm going to do a gig in LA. You come to the gig, and if you like it, then we can go on. And if you don't, then we'll separate. Well, they came to the gig, and they didn't care for it. And oddly enough, it was the venue that I got signed out of when I showcased was the Central in Los Angeles, which later became Viper Room.
Right.
But back then, it was called the Central. And so I did the gig, and they're like, nah, we're not feeling it. We're going to let you out of your contract like you asked. And so I flew home, and the guy calls me and says, I flew back to Philly because it was around the holidays. And the guy calls and says, listen, we're letting you out of your contract like you asked, but Bret Michaels has been calling us about you joining Poison. And I naturally, at that point, I flipped out again. I said, are you out of your mind? I said, you just dropped me because I don't want to make a rock record of my own. And now you're telling me to go join, an established hard rock band. then they said, I'll tell you something. I think you should meet him. I think you should go to his house when you come back to LA. You should go meet him and just talk to him. So I came back to LA after the holidays. I had, had already been living here for about a year. And so I drove out to Calabasas and I met Bret Michaels at his house, and everything shifted when we sat down because he was from PA as well. And we started talking about music and how much in common we had. And he's naming records that I liked, and I'm naming records that he liked. And all of a sudden I just said, wait a minute, this might be kind of cool. And what got me in was he said, we're not just looking for a guy to come in and replace Cece. We need someone that's a writer. And we want to get with someone that'll take the band in a new direction, a new chapter. And so, that was me. And I hit it off and we started writing, and I think we made a great record together, me and the rest of the guys. And then, one thing led to another, and I left the band, and, I immediately got signed again as a solo artist to Geffen. John Kolodner signed me. And again, it was more of the same kind of bullshit where it's like, no, you can't produce yourself. No, you got to do this. You got to, and these fucking record labels, it's like the good and the bad. It's like, well, here you got a great deal. They're throwing money at you. They're 20-year career. We're talking box sets. But then in the meantime, they're trying to change you into being something that you really aren't. So the whole thing was just a fucking torturous. It was a beautiful thing in one hand, and then on the other hand, creatively in your heart, it's like you're being fucking tortured. So, the minute it turned into a situation where the internet opened up, where I could make my own records without having to listen to all this input, that's when things really started to happen for me. And I think the first record that happened was an album called Get Up. I did a record called Get Up, and that was a record that I just didn't have anybody in my ear. I just went and did my thing. And so that's my story. I'm long-winded. Be careful what you ask me. I'll be talking here.
No, we like that. That's that's good.
No, it's good. Yeah, that's awesome. By the way, before I forget, let's also mention Thomann.com. Make sure you guys check out Thomann, and fixpedalboards.com. Right, for all your pedal board needs. Okay.
Yep.
We appreciate it. All right.
And I'm sure either of those retailers, Sweetwater or Thomann in Europe, probably has Richie's new Stratocaster.
Oh, yeah.
I would think.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
Yeah. How did you go? So you became kind of then or maybe you always were kind of more of a single coil guy, huh?
Yeah. What happened is I was looking for a certain sound that I wasn't getting. And so when I made that first album, the thing that's interesting is like, I got signed to Shrapnel at a very young age. I was a teenager, right? He put me in Spotlight when I was 17. And then, I made the record about a year and a half later based on songs that I was writing that got me in Spotlight. And then things shifted very quickly. Whereas by the time that record was finished and released, I was already in a different mindset that I don't want to be an instrumentalist. I don't feel like that's my calling. And I want to sing. I want to at least write songs that have lyrics. And so everything shifted quite fast. And so I ended up realizing that I wasn't getting the response out of the instrument that I wanted. And I realized that the response would come from a Fender guitar. And so I went out and I bought a Telecaster and a Stratocaster on the same day. And I still have those guitars. And I actually did something crazy. I stripped the finish off and I repainted them to make them look, personalized. And
were they older guitars or newer guitars? Like
they were brand new, but I bought them had to have been 89 or 90.
Okay.
So, but they were new when I bought them. So I guess that's the era of the guitar.
Gotcha.
And so I started playing those two guitars, and I still played the Ibanez horror guitar because I had the locking system on it. But then that locking system really started to get on my nerves, because if I'd be playing and a string would break, the whole guitar goes out of tune. And I don't have patience for that. And then that's why I stopped using that. And then that's what got me to Fender. So what happened was, back to Poison again, when I was in the studio, we were making the record, and I was still getting some guitars from Ibanez, but it was under the Starfield name, which was their version of more vintagey, Fender-y type things. And they were shaped like a Telecaster, kind of. And so the rep came down to the studio because the bass player was playing Fender. He had some beautiful basses. There's one in particular that I remember that was just unbelievable. But they came down there and they said, "Hey, we brought you something." And they gave me 2 guitars. One, and they were both master built. One is a red Stratocaster, and the other is a brown tobacco Sunburst Telecaster. And so you can see, eventually my model came out of that. And so I signed on with Fender right around the same time I joined Poison. And that tobacco guitar and the red, when they became my main guitars, those were it. And then I had special made a few master built guitars, total of 8 guitars that were made for me back then by Larry Brooks was the guy that made them.
But in the tellies and stuff, you had what pickup did you have in the bridge? It's like a blade or something, right?
Okay, so that yeah. Okay, so originally it was I always used DiMarzios, but the guitars, when they were made, the first 2 that they gave me had Texas Specials in, which sound great. And so the tobacco guitar, the original Telecaster, I never rewired that or did anything to it. That still has those original Texas Specials in it. The guitar you're talking about that has the blade in it, that's a DiMarzio pickup, and I wanted something a little more aggressive in that guitar. But after the fact, the other guitars they made me, they had the pickups in that are in my signature guitars. Larry DiMarzio did those up for me, and that's what's in those. And so that one blade pickup that's in that one guitar, it's the only Strat that I have that has that kind of a pickup in it that I can think of right now. I think that's pretty much the same pickup that comes in the Telecaster that people can buy. I don't know the name of it off.
Is it a chopper or is it a
yes, that's what it is. Yep.
It's a chopper, right? Yeah. It actually was a pretty cool sounding pickup. It's hot, but it wasn't like insanely hot.
No, I don't like a real hot pickup. I got to be honest, because I learned that I like the dynamic range of the instrument, and when you get a hot pickup on there, you're stuck. You can't really. I like a lot of dynamics. I like to be able to really control what I'm doing on the instrument when I'm improvising. And if I try and do that, like if I try and do that on a guitar with a fat humbucker and a floating tailpiece, I can't communicate the same way. Just my style of playing, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and actually, also in your telly, you use the Twang King. The neck. I've not heard of that one. So
that's like a replacement. I think that's their replacement neck pickup for a Telecaster that DiMarzio makes.
Gotcha. Very cool. So that now,
have you guys played any of those guitars? My Fender guitars.
I have not actually. I've seen them, but I've never actually played them.
Yeah, I'm a lefty, so I don't know if I've seen any lefty models of them.
He's backwards, so
yeah. I have.
Do you restring it then?
No. I restring it as a lefty. Yeah, lefty guitars. Yeah, I don't play it upside down like Doyle.
It's funny you mentioned Doyle. Years ago, he and I were hanging out a lot, and we wrote a song together that ended up on one of my albums called "The Feeling's Gone," and it's a cool song. But I remember when we'd sit around and jam and play, it always confused me.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I couldn't look at it. I could listen, but if I look, I get like, what's going on? It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, he's one of my favorites till this day. One of my favorites for sure. But just take the guitar and to look at it, it's confusing.
It's like watching Eric Gales play.
Oh, another one. Yeah,
he's just like, wait a minute, how do these chords? Wait. I can't look.
He's so good with his chords and his voicing. It's beautiful.
So good.
Beautiful.
Holy crap.
Wonderful guitar player. And much deeper than just, because I know I love the blues. But he's much deeper than just playing traditional blues,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I love his playing.
Oh
One of my favorites.
I agree. Yeah.
I never knew that he had a signature amp with Two Rock. Did you know that?
With who?
Eric Gales.
He did?
Yeah, for a period of time there was a signature amp with Two Rock.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like a higher gain, not high gain, but a higher gain amp for Two Rock. I think it was an EL34 based amp.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought he plays this little weird little solid state kind of funky little amp that he does but he does a great job. Whatever, it sounds good.
Yeah, well, they ended up discontinuing. It's a discontinued model. So, but so about you, Richie? Any new gear? Any new acquisitions?
Well, I have obviously the guitars, pedals. I have a deal with Tech 21, and we came up with something years ago called the Fly Rig. And what I was doing back then, I was doing a lot of dates where I'd go down to Brazil, for example. I'd fly in, do 4 or 5 shows, fly over to Chile, fly back to Argentina, and come home. And so, you do these gigs and you don't know what you're getting with amps, this or that. So I devised a pedal. I actually made it myself. I took my favorite overdrive, a Tech 21 delay pedal. And back then I would use a Fender Twin. And I had the switching for the twin, the reverb and the tremolo. And I made this thing because in my mind I thought, well, I just want to have one little box to take around. I don't want a bunch of shit. And so I showed it to Andrew Barta at Tech 21, and we came up with what you're showing right now on the screen. Now that's the version number 2. Which is really cool.
This is actually version 3. This is version number 3, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm off. But whatever it is, that's what I'm using. Now, I've got another one in the works where you see how it's 5 buttons, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, you've got a boost, you've got an overdrive, and then the boost can be pre or post. On this one, it might be compression or boost. There was an era where it was different. But then on the other one, that might be fuzz on this one. I don't have my glasses, so I can't quite see.
Yeah, so you have a pre-post boost and then fuzz.
Yeah, great. Okay, so now if you keep going, go to the other side. You're going to see a switch that makes it from a Leslie rotating. You have a speed control or a delay, right? Now, what I did, they made another box for me that's a little longer that I can use both the Leslie and the delay, because right now you got to select it's one or the other.
Right.
The other one is floating around. I don't know if they're selling it yet, but it'll do, because I like to sometimes have a delay and a rotating speaker, and so now I can do that with the new pedal. But this thing is great, and the thing that I really like about it, you see stop it right there. You see that Sans amp? If you turn that on, you can revoice, like if you have a Fender Twin and you want it to kind of growl and have a little bit of drive, because that's a loud amp. You have to turn it up. You can get that to grind out real nice with that Sans amp. So what I do with my rig when I play live, my favorite head is the Marshall 1959, basically 4-input 100-watt plexi. I'll take that amp, put this in front of it, turn on the Sans amp, and just turn up the drive, and I get that to just break up real nice. It kind of gives you that, that breakup sound that if the volume knob is full up, you can still play a lead.
Right.
And then you pull down a little bit and you got a nice clean tone. And then I'll use the distortion on the right of that for like a screaming solo. If I need, screaming sustain, I'll turn that on. And then I can use the boost, like if I'm playing with Adrian and I want to be louder than Adrian, I'm trying to be funny, but if I want to boost it and take over, I can hit the boost and I got more headroom and I can get louder. So it's a great rig. So the rig is that with the Marshall 1959, and now Tech 21 and we have a wah pedal together, which is designed to work with this, and it sees phantom power. If you use a TRS cable coming on the input to the output of the wah, you use one adapter, and the wah is powered through that audio cable. It's
cool.
good. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Good stuff.
Great.
All right, guys, check this stuff out.
So then on your Marshall, then are you running it totally clean, or are you getting a little grit out of that?
It depends on the room I'm in. If I can afford to get loud enough where it breaks up on its own, then I'm in a pretty big room. But see, I have to be careful with that, because the thing is this: I'm a singer, so when I'm on stage, the priority for me is my voice, is hearing my voice.
Yeah.
And so whatever I do with the guitar, it has to be in such a way that I don't. Well, I mean, I kind of can't. I was going to say that it's got to be done in a way that I don't drown myself out, but I could never do that because I'm in control of it. So you know what I mean? It'd be like I'd have to have some kind of schizophrenia breakdown. So I control the volume such that I can hear myself sing. But I play as I get older, I find myself playing with a cleaner tone as well. I kind of enjoy that. I like the exposure.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Cool. And don't you sometimes use a smaller amp too? Like if it's just too much, 100 watt? I remember seeing that.
I did that a few weeks ago. I did a gig down in San Juan Capistrano, and then I played at the Whiskey. And what I did was I have one of those Marshall, I don't know the name of the thing, but you know what it is. It's
the 18 watt guy.
Yeah. I take that into a
2061 or something.
Yeah. And I'll turn that all the way up. Yeah. And then I split the signal, and the other side goes into a twin. And then I use the Stans amp to give me a little bit of grind. And then on those gigs, I was also using the reverb and the tremolo on the twin with the Marshall. It sounded pretty cool. I was having fun with it. I liked it.
Oh, that sounds cool.
I bet that would sound good.
Yeah. And then that allows the Marshall to be cranked up a bit.
I turned it all the way up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then it does what it's meant to be doing.
Then it's gritty, and you can roll your volume knob off, and it's clean.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I love that, and you can be so expressive like that.
I always talk to people about that. I was like, I grew up on one channel amps. I grew up with an old Marshall or something, right? And there's 40 channels in that amp. You just got to know what pickups to use and the volume knobs and everything else. I mean, there's a million sounds. And an amp like that is so dynamic. It's like icy clean to full on raging if you cranked it.
Well, I get real aggravated if I go somewhere and I see an amp that's got a lot of stuff on it. Immediately, I become stressed. It really bothers me. Oh, fuck. I just want to plug in and I just want to play. That's the point of it all, really. That's why I've never been like a real gear. I don't know. I have what I have. I know how it works. I know what it sounds like. I know what it does.
Oh, you make it sound good.
Yeah, I know I was going to respond. My priority is making music. That's what I want to do most of all. I want to write a song, record it, and then I want to go play it. So all the stuff, I'm not nearly as interested in it as I probably could be, I guess.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I think you get a great sound, and I think that's lovely. Okay. And the fact that you want to make a song and make music, especially in this day and age, that's amazing, because that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I remember. Really? I remember when I was a little boy and I was getting into music, the first thing I wanted to do was write a song. And I got real frustrated because I didn't know how to write lyrics. And the reason I didn't know how to write lyrics is nothing really was happening for me to write about. I was too young.
Sure.
You know?
Went to school.
Yeah.
Went to school today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got an A.
Went to the arcade, you know?
Yeah.
That's funny. Hey, let's go to some super chats. We've got some questions for you, Richie.
All right.
Hunter Ralph, thanks for the super chat. Winery Dogs, self-titled, was a life-changing record for me and my friends. How did you compose those songs and glorious solos? Well, also, what was your rig on Go Faster? I think that's your best guitar tone. God bless, Richie.
Okay. Well, the Winery Dog record is a hybrid as far as how that was written, because that band formed after I came off of a cycle with an album I did called 24 Hours. Actually, if you listen to the 24 Hours record, there's elements of that record that kind of bleed into that first Winery Dog record. But I had started writing for what would have been my next record. And so some of the pieces that I had, well, there was one song that was finished, which was Damaged. I actually had a version of that was done. I had a lot of pieces. I had the I'm No Angel. I had the riff, I had the chorus, but they were living in two different songs. I had Elevate in pieces. I had Regret. And so those were the key. Elevate, I'm No Angel, Regret, Damaged. Might have been one other song that was in progress. And I remember specifically on one of them, Mike Portnoy, I played him, so yeah, he said, you should take that chorus and put it on that song, and that became Elevate. So if you can imagine, and I'm sure Mike will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is how it went. I had the riff and the verse singing for the verse of I'm No Angel, and I think that went into the chorus of Elevate. And then we took the chorus of Elevate and put that to Lost in the Dark, which was something else. And that became Elevate. And then I'm No Angel came back, wrote the chorus. So there was a lot of that going on. And then the other part of it, when I say it's a hybrid writing style, the other part was us getting in a room jamming. And so we got in a room, and I remember the One More Time. There's a song called One More Time. And we were just jamming, and we recorded it. And then I went back and wrote lyrics. And then down the road, that became the template as to how the Winery Dogs wrote. I stopped on the second and third record. I didn't really bring stuff in. I brought a song in called Fire that was pretty much a ballad. But for the most part, we would get in a room. Billy would come up with a riff. Mike would play a beat. I'd start improvising. Mike would say, hey, I hear this. And then we'd kind of formulate these songs together. And then they would leave, and I'd sit with it and write lyrics and melodies, you know, and basically turn these kind of organized jams into songs. And that was the process. That's how the band, you know, that's why the band has such a unique sound, you know, because you've got, you know, all three of us kind of contributing. Mm-hmm. And then for, you know, the other question, you know, it's real hard for me to remember what I might have used on Go Faster, but it might have been the Cornford stuff. It very well might have been. I know for a fact on Get Up, it was the Cornford, the 50-watt Cornford, because they had just given that to me. And I used, so on that record, that I know, and that's primarily Strat. And the reason I'm talking about the record is I just listened to it because we're making it in vinyl now. And then Into the Black was primarily a Stratocaster, probably the Cornfords. But I could have gone back to Marshall by the time I went to Go Faster. So I'm really not 100% sure.
Okay. Was Cornford, was that Martin Kidd?
Yeah.
That was the sort of the Martin then went on to Victory and
right.
And, yeah.
Martin's on. He was on the show. Great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We still talk now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Next question. Jacob Howard, 96. Thanks for the super chat. Richie, you're an inspiration to me as a guitarist and a singer. I was wondering in your early singing days if you had any vocal issues and how you got around them. Any plans to come back to Australia?
Yeah, I had major vocal issues. I have had 2 surgeries on my throat, and the surgery was about a year apart. So what happened was in 94, I was making an album called Motherhead's Family Reunion that was released on Geffen. And I was in the studio, overly excited. And I was still of the mindset from the Shrapnel Records days where you had limited time in the studio. But reality was we had a big budget. I had a lot of time, but I was just inspired, and I was I was recording. I did 5 lead vocals in one day. And I blew my voice out. The next day, I was like, oh, fuck, this is weird. So we went and did some other stuff. We did guitars. We did backgrounds. I remember Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles came in and sang on my record. He did the background vocals with me. And another guy was in there with him. Right now, his name's Tommy. I can't think of his last name. Sorry. Don't hate me, but there was 3 of us. Anyway, when my voice came back, it sounded funny. And it was weird because I would go to sing something like I normally would do, and the voice would react different. It would go here with some kind of weird shit. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, I don't have control of my freaking voice. And what happened, I went to Edward Cantor, who was the best doctor in town, and he said, you've got a pinpoint nodule on your left vocal cord. And he took me and through this, through that, do this, do that. Looked at it again, still there. Got to do surgery. Only way around it. So they take this to the surgery, get rid of it. Voice comes back. About a year later, same problem. Oh, this is really screwed up. I go back to Edward Cantor. He looks, it's back. Same spot, or roughly. Take it off. Now, at this point, I'm thinking, I'm doing something really wrong. I'm about 27 years old. So I go back to Ronnie Anderson. I don't need to be dropping all these names, but these are people in my life that were significant.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I go back to Ron Anderson, who was the best vocal coach in town. And he and I studied with him when I was 19, 20 years old. When I first came to California, I would study with him. And so I went back to him after years, and he listened to my album, and he made me sing. He said, okay, so you're ruining your voice. He said, I know that that's what you want to sound like, but you're destroying your voice. I know how to get that sound for you without hurting yourself. And he restructured and rebuilt my whole approach. And he taught like this kind of opera placement. And after I went to Ron, everything, and this is probably in 1997, after I studied with him, everything changed. And it was, wonderful. I mean, whatever he passed away recently, but I don't know where you'd find his teachings, but he really, I mean, I think he worked with Axl too. I mean, he worked with a lot of people. And so, yeah, he helped me, saved my ass.
That's great. Glad it hasn't come back.
And you've been good ever since?
Yeah, knock on wood. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
good.
I got a tour coming up. I'm going out with John 5. We're doing a co-headline thing across the United States. And I'm doing like 6-7 shows in a row. So I got to use this technique to get through it. This guy's a singer here, I guess. So he's asking this question.
Probably.
The point that I want to make, you do more damage to your voice speaking. If you have correct technique and you sing correctly, and there is a correct way to sing, whether you like it or not, where you can sing without damaging yourself. If you follow that protocol, you'll be fine. But where you get in trouble is after the show, you're talking all night in the back lounge of the bus, or you're smoking didn't really hurt my voice. I was a heavy smoker. It never really messed with my voice. But, talking will really do it. Drugs will fuck your voice up. That like if I did any kind of substance, forget about it. Fucking gone. Can't think. So that's something to stay away from drugs.
Yeah.
But you know, a little bit of whiskey here and there. But talking is the devil. Just don't fucking talk.
It's a good excuse to keep not talk to people.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. At the end of the show, I can't talk. Any plans to come to Australia? In time
Not
soon?
right now. I'd like to do it. I did it once before. It was great. I'd like to go back. I put up a video recently. Actually, I'm performing, and there's a video live. The song is called "This Is Life," and the video is from Australia, Melbourne. I'm playing there.
Beautiful.
I'm sure there'd be all sorts of people who would love to see you over there. They're great. You know, Australia's great music fans.
Yeah,
for sure.
Place.
Yeah.
Bastille Tiffany 8850. If Richie could have any gig ever, what would it be?
I'm doing it. I mean, I have it.
There you go.
There you go. Perfect.
My whole motivation as a guy that plays music, you know, there's a lot of guys, girls, I say guys as a figure of speech, but you know what I mean, people that you know, they dream of being in a big band. I didn't really do that. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a solo artist. So I'd look at like Prince, you know, and that would be like, I would look at Prince and think, wow, I'd love to do what he's doing. Or, you know, David Bowie, you know, or Bruce Springsteen. No, I mean, these guys, they have a band, but it's like, in my mind, it was like, you know, solo artists. That's always what I worked for. I didn't work to diversify my style so that I could play in any band that came around. I focused on, I want to write music. It's my point of view, my art, if you want to call it, for lack of a better term. And then, you know, put it out there. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that was my motivation. So I never really thought about getting a gig. I did have, you know, I played with Stanley Clarke and his band for a while, but that was a new thing that we kind of did together. And I played in Mr. Big. I kind of fell into that. You know, I didn't go looking for it. And the same thing with Poison. But my focus was always doing my own music. And even in bands that I was in, I was doing my own music. And, you know, if you think about it, I mean, I wrote a couple albums with Mr. Big. I wrote a Poison album with the guys, and Stanley and I wrote a couple songs together. So, you know, that's it. And of course, the Winery Dogs. You know, that's my favorite collaboration, other than me and Adrian. Now, I love working with Adrian because you know, I look at the album cover and it says Richie Kotzen, Adrian Smith. And I can remember when I was a kid, you know, every morning before school playing Iron Maiden. And now I got an album with his name and my name together. I'm like, this is too much. You know?
Surreal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's surreal. It's like a fantasy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, no, that stuff was really cool. I mean, when it first came out, I go, wait, Adrian Smith and Richie Kotzen? And when it first came out, I go, oh, wow, they're both singing. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the only time Brett Michaels and I shared vocals on a few songs. Eric Martin and I did it, but this is more, the whole project is built on two singers with Smith Kotzen. And it's fun. I mean, it's really cool. I think our voices blend nice together. You know, it
sounds great, actually. Yeah.
I loved, you know, Glenn Hughes is a dear friend, and we've written together and put songs up together. But I loved like the Stormbringer record, you know, when Coverdale and Glenn sing together. Like I love that. So you know, I guess, you know, I'm not saying that that Adrian and I are nearly at the level of David and Glenn, but it's definitely inspired by that. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. Got another question here. Pentatonic Prancer 7714. Thanks for the super chat. What's up, guys? Hey, Richie, have your signature telly. It kicks ass. Do you still have your Cornford 100 watt amp? That amp was a beast.
All right. Well, so that is finally going to leave my hands. I've had that amp for a very long time, and it's time to pass the torch. So you can go to that there next bid. Well, we talked about this, the auction, and
Yep.
it's in the up for bids, and it's there. So maybe what's his name, Pentatonic
Prancer.
Pentatonic Prancer can take that and give it a new life.
There you go.
Yeah, I actually see it. Yeah, you could actually have it right now. It's a good price.
It's interesting. It's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the prices actually go to.
We started everything off at $1.
Yeah, you started really reasonable. That's fantastic. I like it. But like, it's really interesting when you do something like that, when you start something at $1 to see what it actually winds up hitting.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's fun. Exactly. It makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only $770 currently. Yeah. But it's got 23 days left.
Yeah, it's just currently. So
yeah. Let's see what happens. Right?
Let's see what happens.
That's fun to watch. Yeah, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, that's cool. So awesome. And we got a question from Tim Berry. Thanks for the super chat. Which Friedman is the brightest, most raw? I'm really looking at the Plexi for 80s rock and VH type stuff. Well, that'll do it.
Well, there you go. That's it. You answered it. It's like a 4-input Plexi.
Yep.
So that would be probably the brightest and most raw.
Cool.
So,
absolutely.
And it's 50 watts, so it's a little more manageable.
Okay. Mr. Woodchuck. Richie, I picked up your REH Rock Shops VHS back in the 90s. I saw that. I've seen that video. Still my favorite lessons on legato. Do you ever play that Ibanez anymore? Thanks.
No, again, that one's up for auction as well. Actually, both Ibanezes are up for auction, and they were both hanging in the back of my house. There's like this winding staircase, and I have all the guitars just hanging down the way, and they were hanging up at the top. And after the last evacuation order, I thought I got to get these into somebody's hands that can play them. I haven't played them. I picked them up. The strings on both those guitars are probably from back in the day. I mean, yeah.
Rusted by now.
What?
Rusted by now.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. All right. Sloppy Fingers. Hey guys.
Names are insane.
Well, we still haven't. We don't have the good one yet. The good one that comes on our show a lot is the name is a scent of a wheelchair pillow.
Yeah. What did you say? I was reading with this guy.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The scent of a wheelchair pillow. What's that?
Well, there's another person that chimes in a lot, and the screen name is scent of a wheelchair pillow. And we always have to laugh at that one. And you just like, think about that for a second.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, where are they coming up with this stuff?
That's we're always like, wow, that's pretty messed up. All right.
Yeah, that's some sick thinking right there.
Sick thinking. Okay, back to Sloppy Fingers. Sorry, Sloppy Fingers.
Yeah, Sloppy Fingers. It makes me think of Jimmy Page for some reason. I don't know why.
That's a good sloppy.
Yeah, good sloppy. Hey guys, Richie, caught your show at the Brass Monkey here in Ottawa some years back. Loved it. Mark, last week I only meant to suggest that Gibson let Ibanez re-release the Destroyer under license. Not sure what that means.
I think I remember that comment last week, but yeah.
What was the comment?
I don't remember, something about the Ibanez Destroyer kind of thing.
Oh,
I don't really remember.
Oh yeah, now I do. Okay, that Gibson. Okay, yeah, it's possible if they do. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Next question for Richie. Cole Justessen. thanks for this great music over the years, Richie. You truly inspire me.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet.
Chris Puckett, thanks for the super chat. Hey, Richie, I'm turning 50 this year. You inspired me to do 50 songs by 50. I've got 20 solid demos now, 30 more to go. Can you talk about that project a little bit?
Oh my. Yeah, I can. I could tell you, I remember when I had this thought. So I feel like this whole interview, I'm just dropping names, but a friend of mine is one of my favorite recording artists and hands down my favorite singer, is Sananda Maitreya. And I was on tour in 2019, and I was checking out something that he did. And he had a record that had like 30 songs on it, and I thought, man, that's a lot of music. And then I had a lot of time on the bus, and I was thinking, I've got so many songs that are halfway done, in this weird state of completion. And then I've got a couple that I never released. And then, of course, I've got ideas for new ones. So while I was on the road, I started going through some of these songs that were incomplete. And I started writing the lyrics, and I started going through them and putting them together. And then I thought to myself, well, when I go home, I got some time off. I'm going to try to see if I can go through this and start finishing some of this stuff. Because once you have the lyrics written, you got a song. That's the real key. And that's the thing that stops a lot of folks, I think. So I was in a place where actually lyrics were coming to me like left and right. And so then I thought, well, I'm turning 50 in about 9 months. And I wonder if I can get all this done by the time I turn 50. And then I thought, if I can, maybe I'll just release it all at once, rather than have all these songs laying around. And then there was also this horrible, dark thought about what happens if I don't want people going through my shit, finding incomplete stuff and messing with it. So I thought, let me just purge my stuff and get it out. Get it done. At least it's done. And so I started working on it over the summer when I came off that tour. And by the time I got to, like the end of October, I was almost finished. And then at that point, I was like, well, I can do this. I can release a record by the time I turn 50 with 50 songs. I'll call it 50 for 50. And there you go. So it kind of led into itself. It wasn't like I sat there and thought, I'm going to do 50 songs and put it out by the time, blah, blah, blah. It was almost like this weird, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, who cares? And so it just worked out that it happened. Now, one of the things that was interesting is as I was simultaneously finishing an older song, I'd get an idea for a new song, literally in the middle of the night. Now, the convenience and what made this possible was my house was wired up so that the drums were up, everything was up and wired in, so I could jump around at any time. Guitar, drums, go back to bass, go back to the drums, and so I would wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'd have this thing going on, and I'd go work on it. And the minute I hit a wall, I'd put it away. I'd go to something else, and so it was this kind of like roundabout way of building this, and finishing it. And so it just kind of came together. And it's weird because when I go back, if I look at that, which I don't do very often, but I remember doing that recently, I mean, it's probably some of my best work is there, I mean, there's some really interesting stuff there. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out, but it was as weird as it is to hear me say it. There was no pressure. It was just like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And somehow with that attitude, all these ideas were coming, and it was just boom, 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 boom. It just kind of came together.
That's cool. Can you imagine?
That's great.
Yeah. Can you imagine having to work with a record company on that? I want to release 50 songs.
50 songs and what?
Yeah, they'd be like,
you guys, my internet went nuts here. I think you said something about a record company.
I said, can you imagine working with a record company on 50 songs for 50 you know,
No, they never allow it.
What?
So, yeah,
what are you talking about?
They think you're nuts. And the other thing I remember, my friend, another name dropping, but David Donnelly has been mastering my stuff since since I met him through John Collider back in the day. And he I remember him calling me. He said, "Okay, there's 50 songs here." He said, "We have to master 50 songs." He said,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a really good deal, because if I charge you the normal rate, this is going to get extraordinarily expensive.
Yeah,
So he did me a solid, and we got through it.
yeah.
That's cool. Very cool. Let's see. Next question is from Robert Baker. What's up, Robert?
Hey, Robert.
Hope you're doing good. Massive fan. Will there ever be any more teaching content like what you did with Young Guitar? Looking forward to seeing you in Nashville on October 29th.
Yeah, probably not. And the reason I can answer that so quickly is I know that was never something I was ever comfortable with, and it was never something I ever looked forward to doing, because I felt an enormous amount of pressure in the idea of demonstration and teaching, because I feel like the thing that I do that's where the value is not there. It's in the creative process for me. Mm. That's where I feel like I'm most at home and most useful, is when I'm recording and writing and making music. So to sit and show someone something that, in some ways, it's almost like, I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable with it. It's not something I like. I don't really like doing that. It makes me feel like I'm under pressure. And I did it back then because with Young Guitar magazine, it was mandatory. You wanted to be in the magazine because you wanted people to know about your record. But then on the flip side, they want these demonstrations. And I'm like, this is like contradictory to what it is that I am. It doesn't work. So I always felt like a fish out of water when I was doing that stuff, So I would say, no, I'm not going to ever do that again.
And that's your right to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I see you're going to be in Nashville October 29th, and then about a week later, you're going to be in Fort Lauderdale. I'll be seeing you in the Culture Room, I think.
Oh yeah, I know that room. I played there. I had a meltdown in that room one night.
Did you?
Oh my God! I was on stage, and it was a horrible situation. So something happened. I snapped, and we had to stop the show. But then I got it together, and then we went out and played. But that's why I don't drink anymore. So it's a good thing. But there's a problem. First of all,
related to that.
I fucking hate in-ear monitors. I hate it, because what happens is I feel like I'm completely isolated from the world. And it's great if I'm just singing. It's cool. It's cute. But like, I want to be able to improvise and react with my band and get quiet and do this and do that and feed off the room and the energy. And if I'm in there, I just hate it. And so I was playing in that room, and we had these live audience mics, and some things were happening during the show that were making it very difficult for me to perform, technical things, and I was dealing with it, and I was keeping my cool, and I just had just enough in me, with the Jack Daniels, that I finally snapped when people were talking full conversation, and I'm singing a ballad.
Oh God!
Oh God! I
Don't
blame you.
And all I hear is someone in my ear, and I went nuts. And I stopped, and I said, "I got to ask you guys a question. Did you come out here to hear music or to have a fucking conversation? Because you can have a fucking conversation anywhere, but I'm hearing every fucking word." It was horrible. I really felt guilty, and I remember I went backstage, and Billy Sheehan, who was like the most professional guy in the world, was sitting there, and he didn't know what to do, because I was so unhinged, And he goes, Richie, he's trying to talk me off the ledge. And then I calmed down, and then we went back out and we got through the show. It ended up being a pretty good show. And the irony was that when I went off on the rant, people were cheering as if something great happened. So I don't know.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, some people will completely agree with that. Completely agree with that thing. It's like the performers that are out there, like sometimes I think Jack White and things that don't want any cameras.
Oh,
We want you to experience the music as it was intended to be, not through the screen of your camera.
Yeah, put your phone away.
Do you remember a venue in New York called BB King's?
Yeah,
ever go in there?
Right on 42nd Street. Yeah,
I was in there playing one night. I used to play there quite a bit, and I'm in there playing, and I got a Wurlitzer piano at the edge of the stage. The stage was weird. It was long, but it was narrow, so everything was like lined up. It was very strange. But I'm there with the piano, and I'm playing. I'm singing ballad, of course. Someone comes up, and they put their elbows on the Wurlitzer, and they got the camera. They're just filming. They're right there. I mean,
oh my God.
It's as close as my laptop is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like and that night, for whatever reason, I didn't flip out. And I just, in my mind, I'm thinking, this can't be real.
He didn't have enough Jack Daniels.
He didn't have enough Jack Daniels in me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just people with the phones. Yeah, it's crazy.
No, I'm not a guy that ever films anything at a show. I don't care. I'm there to watch the show as a show, just like all growing up in my youth, when I saw all these bands and all these shows, amazing bands, I remember it in my head. I just remember it. It's just
right.
Like I forget who opened for who and what. Sometimes I look back and I go, I know I saw them. Now, were they opening for who? And I have to look it up.
Yeah. And then you got all these fucking videos. If you do this, you're going to have endless videos and pictures on your phone. You're not going to sit and look at this shit.
Yeah, no, I never, if I have ever done it, I've never looked at them again.
Yeah.
And I won't. I just won't.
No one ever, most people don't ever go back and look at the shit that they've done.
I actually don't want to see it on video. You know why? Because you go see whatever band, a favorite band you're going to see. And you see them in the moment, in the bar, the club, the venue, or whatever, and you're hearing it, and you think it sounds amazing. When you see it on video, you're like, "Oh, that didn't sound that good, did it?" Or the vocal wasn't quite in pitch. But at the venue, you didn't really notice.
Right.
It was just like you heard the melody lines, and they were there, and everything was, it was fine. But like every little pitch or every little something on a video is like magnified, and I hate that.
Yeah, it's funny because when this stuff first started happening, it used to really bother me, really freak me out, because what always would happen is that someone would be filming me and I would not be at my best. And then the minute they put the phone down, I do something where it was like it worked perfectly, and it didn't, and like this and that. But then I realized it's so flooded that it seems like the good stuff is the stuff that people bother looking at. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's almost like I stopped worrying about it because there's so much of it. And then the reality is, who really gives a fuck? I mean, it doesn't really, really matter at the end of the day. Probably not. I mean, I know that probably, absolutely not. It doesn't fucking matter. No. But, when it first started, it really did freak me out. Now, I will say this, though. The idea that you're at a show and you're standing there like this, I can't do that. I can't go see the Eagles and be standing there like this because I don't want to hold my hand like this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go home and rewatch the concert. I want to watch the concert and then have the feeling and the memory and then move on with my life. So,
yeah. Sure, of course.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Different generation. John Zocco music.
I mean, what?
I'm looking at the question.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what's the origin?
It's pretty self-explanatory, I think.
That's what I
I
was
love it. The best question I've ever got.
Was there how about this? I'll redo it for
Oh
you.
my God, it's John Zacco. That's you know who that is?
No.
He's a guitar technician for Def Leppard, and he worked with me for on and off with the Winery Dogs.
That's why he said
Hey,
this.
John, how you doing? Thanks for busting my balls. I appreciate it. I miss you. I hope I see you in Nashville.
That's funny.
That's great.
Hoochie Toad. How about revisiting some late 90s gems on tour?
Maybe. Yeah, there's probably some in there. You know what's happened is that I've kind of, it's interesting as a solo artist, I don't have songs on the radio and stuff like that. And so what has happened is I kind of fell into a certain group of songs that seem to be the songs that are most listened to, as far as people that listen to my music. And that's kind of what the set has become. And that's how, we decide what to play. But, it would be interesting, definitely late 90s. So he's talking about a record called What Is, another record called Break It All Down. And they were 98 and 99 as far as the release. And there's a couple others, and there's Something to Say was one. It'd be interesting, but there's so much music, and it's so hard to pick what songs to do because I don't have those kind of radio songs. But there's certain songs that people want me to play, like Remember is one that I know people expect to hear. Fear, War Paint, they're always in the set.
Cool. Speaking of names, this one's interesting. CC's CC. Yeah. I adore Richie Kotzen. Save Me Brilliant. Do you know Jimmy Bruno?
No, I should be. I don't know.
No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
So show me a picture of this guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Roger Dat, what's going on? Richie, how's your ears? Any wisdom for hearing protection? Please speak.
No, I don't think I've ever spoken about this, but I've got a serious problem with my ears. It's tinnitus. I thought it was called tinnitus. Some people say tinnitus. I like tinnitus because
I have the same.
I agree. Tinnitus. The professionals call it tinnitus.
Do they really?
Yeah, exactly. They do. Professionals do. Yeah. So I in 2023, I was out with the Winery Dogs. No in-ear monitors, wedges, but no earplugs, no protection.
Yeah.
Ripping through the tour, a lot of dates. I come home, and where I live, like I'm in a canyon, it's quiet. I come home, I'm off the bus. I wake up, and my ears are screaming. It's like a 4K, like, holy hell. Now, I didn't notice this anywhere on the tour because I was always somewhere where there was a lot of racket,
Yeah.
And this has stuck with me now for years. And now, right now, it's not bothering me, probably because I'm fired up doing this interview.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get out of bed in the morning, it's hell. I mean, it's just screaming. And then I go about my day, I feed Rusty, and shit starts happening. This dog is laying on his back with his legs spread and his paws like this and his tongue. I wish you guys. But anyway, I have this whatever the fuck it's called. I have it so bad that it's terrible. And I went to the best of the best out here, and it seems like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing when it comes to this. I
think, a weird thing.
Yeah. I think it's related to inflammation, blood pressure, diet. If I get a lot of sleep, which I never do, but if I get more than 5 or 6 hours, it doesn't bother me as much. So I just hope I wake up one day and it's gone.
It is related to, I think it's related to blood pressure for sure, and your sleep, and because I have it in one ear, just one, which is odd. And even if you're exposed to, you go to a restaurant and then come home to a quiet place.
Mhm.
And the restaurant's not that loud, but you just go to a restaurant where there's some background noise going on, and then you come home and it's dead silent, and it's just like
You hear it.
and then it calms down for me. But it's almost always there, but maybe not as bad as you have it. But even in a car, you're listening to a radio at moderate volumes, and the road noise of a car, you get out of the car, it's ringing.
Yeah, it's not fun. And so, to answer wisdom for hearing protection, wear the earplugs. Now, I'm using something called eargasms, and I love them. And basically, I put them in. It cuts out just enough, but leaves just enough. I can hear the band. I can improvise. I can play dynamically, and I can hear my voice too when I sing. It's become something really cool for me. I put those in. I can sing. I hear myself. I put the voice in the wedge a little bit, and it's great. But you got to protect your ears, because once you get something like what we have, it's not a fun thing to live with. You have to really, you have to accept it. It's part of. It's like I was talking to some of my friends who they all have it. They do the same thing I do. But it's like if I was in the Army, there's a chance that I'd be missing something. I come home, I might be missing a foot or a leg, it's a horrible thing to say, but what my analogy I'm trying to make, it's part of what we're doing. Around loud music your whole life, and it makes sense that you'd end up with tinnitus at one point or the other.
Yet then there's people out there and musicians out there that have never had an issue and still don't have an issue today. And it's very interesting because some of them were very known for being very loud on stage, and they have zero issues.
Adrian doesn't have it.
Yeah. And he was probably loud forever, right? Come on. I mean, God, I can only imagine, and then like, friends of mine, Steve Stevens and stuff, he doesn't seem to have any hearing issues whatsoever. And was known to be one of the loudest guitar players in the world. Especially back in the day,
And then Warren DeMartini, he has
Warren has a lot of issues, and but a lot of Warren's is hereditary, evidently. According to him, his whole family's deaf, according to him.
Oh wow!
So,
man,
that's interesting. The second part of this question, which I'm interested in your thoughts, Richie, about the trend of modelers. Have you played with them? I know you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's funny. My Julia, my wife, and I, she's an artist, recording artist, and she plays right now. You would know her playing bass in the band Vixen, but she's a singer and a songwriter, and she just put out a new song today called "I May" with a video, and she's great, super talented. But we had this discovery because we had a friend of ours do some guitar on something. He was a fantastic player, but he used some modeling. And I was trying to do a mix for her, and there was something that was driving her berserk in the guitar sound. And it is the modeling. There's something that it was really making her crazy. And then I replayed it, the same part with an amp, and the problem went away. And so there's a ear fatigue thing that was happening. And so, we investigated this, and I personally, it sounds funny to me. I know you plug it in your computer, you're in your apartment or wherever you are. And, oh yeah, it's great. Let's go. And typically your volume on your guitar is all the way up to 10.
Yeah.
And so in that instance, especially if you do a solo and you're just doing a lead, yeah, it's pretty good, pretty close. I'm telling you, man, when it is not the same thing. It just simply is not. When you roll your volume down, the instant you move your volume knob, it's fucking complete. It's horrible. It's horrible to in comparison to what I've heard my whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it has to do with the fact, I use this analogy. Let's say you have a glass of wine, which I would love to have right now, but I don't. And I won't. But you take the wine and you do the thing with the glass, and the wine goes up the sides and the legs come down. Okay, those legs are coming down in a random way, but in a very special way because of what happened when there's audio stems like that. I don't know what to call that shit that comes. What is that called? On the wine glass.
I actually don't know what that's called, but I understand where you're coming from.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
When you hit a chord, if you take the 1974X Marshall combo and you hit a chord and you let it ring, an E, just let it ring. Watch what happens to the tone and the harmonics. All sorts of magic. If you let it ring long enough, it's going to go. It's going to change and reverberate, and all this beauty is going to happen.
Yeah.
The same way you look at the wine stems and they come down. None of that exists in modeling. I don't care who you are, how you sell it, what you think, how big of a stage you've played. It's not the same thing. It might work for what you're doing, and the average person probably won't know the fucking difference. Right. But for me, when I do it, it drives me berserk. Now, the only caveat I'll say is I have here a digital tone master made by Fender. It's a twin. If I sit in here and play on that with a clean tone, I like it. And I actually took it down to the Canyon Club and did a gig where I just had to play 2 songs and do a guitar solo. It wasn't too bad. I got through it. And it was all right. If I was a guy that was doing local gigs and I had to lug an amp around between a real twin and this one, I'd take the digital one.
Right.
That's a matter of convenience. But my point why I'm being so aggressive, as good as it is in certain situations, it's not the same fucking thing. It's
not. Right. Never is, never will be.
It can't be.
Another a sound and front of house engineer friend of mine we had on the show, Tom Abraham, who's mixed for like Keith Urban and mixed for Marilyn Manson and all these people. He's amazing. Alice in Chains. He's an amazing sound engineer. But he said when he was with Keith Urban, they had a backup rig that was a fractal modeler kind of thing. And he goes, sitting there, being the rigs, just isolated between real amps and that, you're like, yeah, with the volume full up, of course. Yeah, they sounded identical. He goes, one night we decided to try it in the set, and he switched in real time in the mix, in the whole show. And he goes, the guitar disappeared. Mm-hmm. It went away. He goes, you had to bring it up in volume, and then it was too loud.
Oh.
You could never get it to sit. He goes, you couldn't ever get it to sit right in the mix. And that's been my experience over the years too. It never would sit right. An old 4-input Marshall, you hit a couple chords, and even in a pop song, a power chord kind of thing, and you bring those down really low, and you can still hear them in the background, reinforcing it, plain as day. And they're really low, but you could still hear it plain as day. A modeler, you can never get it to sit right. And the same goes for everything. I mean, I have stuff sitting in front of me here. I'm like talking through a real distressor, right? I have an Allen Smart C1 bus compressor here. I'm sorry, no actual plug-in has ever sounded as good as that compressor. A Neve preamp going in, yeah, great. And a real 1176. I'm sorry, there's like a 5% difference, but that 5% really makes a big difference to me.
I remember I used to have a tape machine in my house, like an MCI, which was a fucking pain in the ass, but I had it and I recorded on it. And, I learned how to do edits on it, splicing and what have you. And I remember when I got a digital recorder, it was like, oh, what the hell just happened? It was like a whole layer was taken away. And the only way I could describe it back then was like when I listened to my tape, it felt like I could reach in and put my arms around the bass guitar. It's the only way I could describe it. I could do, or the singer. And then when I went to the digital, I think it was probably like an ADAT or something. It was like this flat, like it was weird. It's just weird. Now they fixed that over the years. I guess because they made the sample
better.
rate, the bit rate got higher or whatever they do. But with the guitar thing, there's things that happen that you do. And again, if you're just, I don't want to diminish anything, but I think if you're just playing chords, or a riff and your guitar volume is always all the way up, you might not notice the fucking difference, on a loud stage, and it might be convenient. But if you're doing stuff where you're really controlling the instrument, the dynamics of the instrument, and like the way you and I like to do it when you're
Big
using
difference.
You can't do it.
Yeah. I agree.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right.
And don't tell me you can, because you can't.
There will be people who say you can.
Don't tell me you can, because you can't.
Yeah.
The dynamics. When we're talking dynamics, we're talking, guitar volume knob changes, tone knob changes, pickup changes. We're talking dynamics, hitting the string lighter, hitting the string harder, picking it in different spots on the guitar to get different tonalities.
Yes.
This is all like important, simple yet important things, but it's long since been forgotten, I think.
And the
forgotten art.
And the interplay between the guitar and the speaker, and having
a very good client of mine and a friend that I've known for years, Mike Landau. Mike Landau is just oozes all those changes and all that stuff. And I don't know if you've ever gone to see him play, Richie, over the years, but fuck, he's amazing.
He's not going to play through a modeling amp.
Yeah, never going to happen ever.
But,
real amps.
I saw the greatest guitar sound I ever saw live that I can remember was Jeff Beck. And I saw him I think it was at the Universal venue. They used to have a venue up at Universal Studios. It's not there anymore. But imagine now what he does, all the sounds that are coming just by moving the volume knob and how you treat the strings and this and that. Imagine trying to do that with a modeling amp. You may have.
It doesn't work.
You just stop. You just stop playing. I'm not going to do this.
Also, some has to do with the volume of the amp too. There's your how the guitar is reacting with the cabinet, with like a cabinet on stage, like you use. The interaction between the guitar and a cabinet is huge. A silent stage, there's no interaction. There's no little bit of feedback.
I thought I was picturing it playing through an amp with a speaker, but if you're talking about no speaker, then that's a whole other level of torture.
Yeah. Fucking terrible.
Yeah.
It's just not.
And there are a lot of bands.
I mean, I have friends in this band, this old 90s band, good friends of mine, this band from the 90s, Sponge. I'm sure you've heard of them over the years. And every time they're in town, I go hang out with them. They play the Whiskey or something, and I go hang out with them. And the thing I always comment about is the fact they're using amps, and they use feedback in their songs where it's part of the song, and you get a little bit of harmonic feedback and things, and it creates this tension, this excitement and tension in the song and the music, and that makes it fantastic to go see, because you're just like, this is great, and you stop yourself and you go, why is this great? Well, it's because of that feedback. That's why it's great.
Right.
It's because of those
and the power The power,
and the feel of it. That's why it's great. And it used to always be that way.
Yeah.
It used to always be that way.
Yeah.
But now it's like I almost don't want to go see people because if they're going to use something like a modeler, I'm just like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I don't care who they are. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Speaking of amps, you mentioned his name earlier. Did you try out the Fender amp that they made for Jack White that he made?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it looks super cool. Yeah.
Lord, I mean, I was in Japan.
That's fun.
They had one there, and I plugged into that. I thought, this is fucking wicked. It was so cool.
It's so unique on what it can do and all this stuff. And it was like,
what a great amp.
I'm like, that's cool. That totally makes sense, you know. And I was like, into that.
Whatever he told them to do there, that was something else.
Yeah. But he's a guy. He's like you're saying. He goes, I only wanted to make you were saying you only wanted to make your music, your songs the way you wanted to do it. Jack White, it's the same sort of way, you know. He wanted his way, his songs the way he wanted to do them.
Yeah.
And no one was telling him otherwise.
They're so creative, man.
And he's an amazing artist, actually. I think he's very creative and very cool.
Yeah.
If you like the vein he's working in.
Love it. Yeah.
I think it's cool.
He's grown on me. Definitely.
I think it's really cool. I mean, a lot of people get stuck, you know, over the years, you know, if you come, I'm 56 years old, and, you know, you come from the 80s era of stuff, you know, which was fantastic at the time, but I always kind of shifted over the years on what I was liking. And I always had a broader spectrum of what things I liked.
Yeah.
And it's like I never stayed in one era. You know what I mean? I kind of moved with the era, sort of. And
that's something that I observe. It's like, you know, I feel the same way. I feel like I in my time on the planet, it's like I absorb something and get into it, and then move on to the next thing, the next level of video game, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting to me, the folks that don't. In some ways, maybe there's a lot of power in staying back there because that's
stuck in time.
You know what?
Stuck in time? I don't know.
Well, maybe there's something to that because, you know, you become so identifiable with that one thing. Yeah. But for me, you know, I'm a fickle motherfucker, and so I changed my taste, you know, and I like discovery. I like learning new things and growing into something that I wasn't before. I mean, that's very interesting to me, you know. So to each his own, I guess.
I'll be right back, guys. Is there more super chats, Mark?
Yeah, we got plenty. Guitar Lens 75. Thanks for the super chat. Hey, Richie, I remember your side project, 40 Deuce. Great songs on that record. Didn't you jam with a rap artist?
Around the same time, I had a project, and the project, what was it called? It might have been called Cash back then, but we also had another name. If we used the name of the Brigade for a minute, we were recording music at the producer's house, and then also at my studio, and we did a gig, actually, like a low-key gig. And the songs were really cool. And the singer was this kid, Troy Cash, who had a fucking killer voice. And then the producer was this guy, Tony De Niro, who was like kind of the mastermind and sort of the hype guy on stage. And we did some stuff. We did some recording. We did a track. There was a guy named Mr. Bentley that was involved. But I don't know what happened to that crew. You know, that was back when I had a studio in North Hollywood, and we'd all hang out, you know, and come record, and then you know, whatever. I sold the studio, and then I just moved on to other things, I guess. But yeah, I did. But I don't think anything was formally released. Universal was courting the group for a while, and then nothing. I don't know, nothing big came out of it that I'm aware of.
You gonna say something, Dave?
It's interesting that you said about your studio. It was on Chandler, right?
Yeah, you ever been there?
Well, no, I was never at your studio. But the funny thing is, my shop at the time was directly across the street next to the soccer club.
Oh wow!
We'd
Cool.
see you go into that your studio.
You could see me go inside.
Yeah. It was just like I was there for a bunch of years. I mean, I guess in the early 2000s, right? I guess that probably around there.
It was
And
a cool building too.
yeah. I'm sure it was awesome.
Yeah. You know who bought it from me is Travis Barker. Travis Barker and Mark Hoppus. They bought it together.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. I don't know if they still have it, but that's who I sold it to.
Hey,
can I hop out of here for just a hot minute? I just want to use the loo real quick.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Absolutely.
No problem at all.
I hope there's nothing creepy in the background.
I don't think so. It's okay. It's kind of skewed anyway.
Yeah. So
we got any super chats for me while we're taking this opportunity at all?
Let me see.
Here, I'll take this opportunity to say this. So the Jose's amps started shipping, guys. And so don't worry. Let me just give you some stats here. So the very first day that we took this email list, right? Within the first, I think, hour, there were 400 signups. So far, we've only released 80. So there's a very good chance you're still very early on the list. Okay. You could be within the first hour of 400 people. So we're working down the list. Please, it comes from admin@friedmanamplification.com, the email, and please check your spam just to make sure it's not going there. Again, that's admin@friedmanamplification.com. So we will just keep working down the line. We've only released, like I said, 82. We keep working down the line. And as we work down the line, of course, we find double signups and different things. And so,
yeah. And some people who sign up don't.
Some people can't do it right now because they're financially burdened or something. You know, it happens. So
yeah. Okay. Sigs and strings. By the way, Richie, how you doing on time? You doing okay? You got a few more minutes?
My wife's out of town, and it's just me and the dog here sitting here.
So you don't give a rat's ass.
I got nothing to do.
You got nothing to do.
You know what I was doing? Actually, you know what I was doing is, they turn the power off out here every time the fucking wind blows. Can I swear on this show?
Absolutely.
You can. Absolutely. We don't care.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, anyway, they turn the. All right. They turn the power off. What time is it actually?
6:48 or something.
He wants his food. They turn the power off out here when the wind blows, and so I took it upon myself to. I'm hooking up a generator, but I'm doing the wiring myself.
Oh.
I hope I don't burn.
I was going to say, is that
burn down the house or electrocute
yourself? Is that a smart thing to do?
Well.
Hey,
you'll learn something from the experience.
You'll save some money.
I learned all about a bonded neutral versus a floating neutral.
Oh,
it's very important to know what kind of generator, if you have a bonded or a floating neutral, because if you have one or the other and you need the other, then you could have a catastrophe. So I'm learning, it's an experiment.
All right.
That sounds good. Yeah, that's a good thing to have. Sigs and strings. Thanks for the super chat. Richie, I've been a huge fan for years. What strings are you using nowadays? And did you ever meet or do anything with EVH? Yes.
So strings, I use Diodario 11 through 49, and I don't change them very often. I actually got a message from Diodario. I said, "Hey, are you okay? It's been like a year and you haven't asked for anything." I still have boxes from the last shipment. So Eddie Van Halen, when I joined Poison, they hired Zeke Clark to be my guitar tech when we were
Yeah.
making the album. And Zeke was Eddie's guy. And so, yeah, Zeke and I became very good friends during that period. And so I have a couple of cool memories where Zeke brought me into Eddie's company, and Eddie was very nice to me. One memory I have is us in a dressing room at a venue in Los Angeles. It's me, Zeke, Eddie, Emilio Estevez, and Valerie sitting just talking about cars. And I remember talking to her about the Jaguar XKE because I had it in my head that I wanted to buy one, and I think she had one at the time. And so I remember that quite vividly. And then another time I went to see Van Halen play, and my seat was next to Zeke, where he was working in this little room that you look through and you could see the stage. So I was watching the show through this little vantage point, like the stage would be here, and I could see up. And I was watching Eddie, and he came in the room during one of the other solos, like the bass solo or something. And you know, how's it sound? And I was nervous. I mean, Eddie was like my hero, the number one.
Yeah.
And so here he is, talking to me as if I was somebody. And so that was pretty awesome. And then another time, I was at my friend's house for a birthday party, and Eddie showed up, and we were talking in the kitchen, and I introduced him to my buddy. I said, "Yeah, it's my best friend." And he looks at me and goes, "Yeah, this week." And I remember he pulled up. Yeah. Anyway, it was pretty surreal, meeting, someone like that you look up to and influence you. It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like Ed saying this week.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a lot of work for him myself, and we were friends, and he was a unique individual. I unfortunately had the pleasure of coming into his life and doing a lot of work for him when he was at, shall we say, his worst of times.
Yeah.
But that got better. So that was good. It was good that it got better, but it was amazing. It was amazing. When you were saying earlier about, an artist you looked up at when you were a kid or something, and you were like seeing him now, and he's right here, and it's like, yeah. So to watch Eddie Van Halen play when I grew up with him, and to be in the same room, was pretty stellar. I mean, like, that's when you're pinching yourself a little bit. You're going, hey, I'm actually doing work for the guy I watched as a kid growing up, and
it's an interesting thing. I mean,
and I've done that with a lot of artists over the years. And it's still always, every once in a while I look back and I go, wow, this is really, these guys are my friends now, or my clients, or both. I
got to comment on that because it's so true. And I think to myself, like, who were the biggest when you were young? Like, as time goes on, your influences and your tastes change. But I think of myself as a youngster. So Gene Simmons was a big deal for me, and I became friends with the guys from Kiss, and Gene did a solo album in my studio. So I got to know him quite well. Eddie Van Halen, Terence Trent D'Arby was, to me, and still is, the greatest singer that ever lived.
Oh my God, he was amazing.
He changed his name to Sonata Maitreya, and we talk at least once a week. We're really good friends. And so that's really surreal. And then the best one is I ended up at Prince's house, and this was this is a funny story. I ended up at Prince's house for an Oscars after party, and it was a house in Mulholland Park that he was renting from this guy George, and they had this jam session, and the living room was massive, and just huge room, and the stage was only about this high. Now I had seen Prince around the house, and at one point he's standing next to me, but I wouldn't say anything to him because I was intimidated. But I'm in this house, and suddenly the band starts kicking off, and I can't quite see who's on the stage, but it's killing, and they're playing Superstition, and I mean I never heard it played like that, and I'm assuming like Prince has got to be up there playing something, but he's definitely not singing. So they end the song. I go outside, and my friend is there, and he says, "Hey, did you see Stevie Wonder?" And I said, "No." I said, "I didn't know Stevie was here, but they were just playing Superstition in there, and I never heard anyone sing it that good." And he's like, "You stupid fuck! That was Stevie Wonder singing it." And he was I didn't realize.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're just like,
I'm sitting there with my wine, not realizing I am listening to Stevie Wonder. He's right in front of me, and I don't realize it's him singing his own song. But it's that thing of being in the company of your idols, or even having a friendship with them. That it's just a cool feeling. It's very cool.
well, you start not to. It's like separated. Like you were a kid and you were watching these people, and then if you come into their lives, you stop sort of thinking about when you were the kid. Every once in a while, it pops into your head. You're just like, "Hey, I'm sitting, having dinner right now with all these guys." Like I just did this. I was in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, I had to have surgery the next day, but that's a different story. I was in Las Vegas, and I was going to see Warren DeMartini play, and I wanted to go see them play with this Warren DeMartini thing with Stephen Pearcy, and Vegas is an easy drive. I just drive there, and I have friends there, and so we go out to dinner the night before, and it's the bass player, Matt Thorne, Warren DeMartini, my friend Jakey Lee, and Carlos Cavazzo, the promoter, and wives in tow, and I'm like looking around this table going, man, the little kid in me from the 80s is like freaking out right now, but I most of these people I'm friends with now. And I mean, I had never met Carlos. Actually, he was a wonderful human being. I loved him. And I think Matt Thorne, I didn't know, but they all knew. And I'm like, oh, this is so weird.
It's a cool thing. I mean,
it's a cool thing,
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
It's like a star-studded event, but not really. They're all your friends now,
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
For sure. Italy 9327. Thanks for the super chat. Hey Richie, any chance for another acoustic live set?
Yeah, there's more of a chance of that happening than me doing an instructional video. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I did a tour in Europe with acoustic. I did it a couple times, but I did one where Julia and I went over, and I did like a couple songs, just me and the guitar, and then she came out and played bass with me, and it's fun. I just did it with Adrian. Actually, we did an acoustic set at the Grammy Museum earlier in the year.
Oh, that'd be great.
Kotzen, yeah. There's clips online on our YouTube channel, and it was fun. And I love, for some reason, there's an element that I like about it more than electric as a singer, because I don't have to compete with a loud guitar or cymbals, and drums, and so it was really great to do that. So yeah, I'd love to do that again for sure.
Cool.
Hey, do you got a sponsor shout out you can do? I got to feed little Rusty here before he starts chewing on my foot.
we can figure something out. Yeah, sure. No problem.
Go for it.
Feed him.
Right now.
Go for it. Feed him.
Yeah, no problem
We're
at all.
not going to deny the dog.
Let me go through the super chats and see if there's any questions for you, Dave.
I have a new pet too. We got a new kitten.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
We got a new kitten. Well, it's a long story. So my son had been bugging me for a long time. We were down to one. We always had cats, right? We were down to one cat. At one point in time, we had 3 cats. We were down to one cat. Our oldest cat died. So there was the one, medium-aged cat that's sitting there, and we were like, my son was like going, let's get a cat. Let's get another kitten. Let's get a kitten. And I'm like, yeah, but everything's like nice and smooth right now. We get another kitten. Until I'm at the factory one day and one of our lead techs goes, hey, I got a bunch of kittens. And he said it right in front of my son, who happened to be there with me. And I'm like, okay, so I guess we got to go look at the kittens.
That's it.
But in the end, we got a really cool little kitten. So, hey.
What's the name?
Sorry, we're filling in here about animals.
What's the name of the kitten?
Milkshake.
Okay.
It's kind of like a calico. It's mostly white with like chunks of like butterscotch and black and stuff in it. Like, like you mixed up a milkshake with, like
right,
a candy bar or something. I don't know. It's a dumb name, but whatever. Animals getting dumb names,
That's fine.
That's okay. It's like, she's going to be cool. She's going to be cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Walrus. Thanks for the super chat, Dave. Some say the BE50 has less gain than the 100. Is that
no?
true?
It doesn't.
And does the Jose have high gain like the 100? It can.
Yes, but it's different. Yes, I'm gonna go, but it's different. Listen to the videos; they're awesome. And more. So Misha Mansour put a video out, a little clip kind of thing somewhere out there in the interwebs. That was amazing with his style of kind of heavy kind of stuff. And then Michael Nielsen, of course, did amazing video.
Yep.
Of the amp.
Cole Justin, thanks for the super chat again. You mentioned that some of your best work was on the 50 for 50. Do you have any songs of yours or the that are the ones that you're most proud of? On a side note, I really love your wah pedal. It sounds so great.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like the wah pedal. We spent a lot of time figuring out what was right and what wasn't, and we got it. I guess we got it right, so that's good. The songs are, do like snapshots, in time. Hard to pinpoint. The songs that I play that I think always belong in the set, like Doing What the Devil Says to Do and Remember, certain songs. But it's hard to just say, oh, that's better than that or this or that. But I like all of them, I guess. The beauty of being a solo artist, that works the way I do, it's like, I don't have to put stuff out that I don't like. Sometimes, in an artist's career, you go through a situation where, you might end up releasing something that isn't quite what you really want it to be because of other factors that are involved. Mm-hmm. And so if you get to a point where you're just really the only one making the decisions, then, it's a pretty safe bet that when you put something out, you feel like you're well represented,
How is it that you are releasing music now? So meaning you're releasing your own records, but are you releasing it on your own label? How is it? I actually don't know. So how is it you're releasing music?
Yeah, sure. Well, a little bit of this and that. So I have albums that were released on labels. Mm-hmm. And then for a long, long period of time, my solo albums, I put them out myself. So I would just,
your own selling. Basically.
Yeah, the way people do. You get it up there, it's streaming this and that. The last record I did was put out on BMG, and they did a really great job getting it everywhere and helping me let people know that it exists. And the beauty about it is that the record was finished. So they heard it and they're like, we really like it. We want to get involved.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh yeah, I like this song and that song, and I don't really like the chorus of this song. Maybe you should write, maybe you should write with this, this and that. And so,
no. The answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really well represented in the world as far as like if you look, at my music, especially in the last 10 years, what I've released in the last 10 years, I feel very well represented. Like if someone said, okay, no more records for you, Richie, I would say, all right, well, I can rest assured that I feel like I am well represented in the world as a recording artist. Whereas there was a period of time in my life where I felt like this is, that anxiety. But I think once you start doing things like for yourself, and then releasing it, it's a beautiful place to be.
Are you releasing things on vinyl at all?
Yeah, I do because
vinyl sells.
Because people like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm going out. Yeah, I'm going out on this tour with John 5, and we're gonna have a merch stand. And I thought, well, I could sell T-shirts, but I want to sell music. And so I went back and I picked 2 albums of mine that are really special releases for me. And so I'm doing them in vinyl. And one album is called Get Up, and the other one is called Into the Black. So they'll be there in vinyl.
That's great. That's great because I know many. I mean, even like younger artists and stuff that don't have the catalog you do that self-release and vinyl, and the thing about vinyl is that people will buy the vinyl. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it's like no one will buy something anymore, and but if it's vinyl, they're going to buy it.
Yeah,
and a lot of people I know they'll just self-release a vinyl thing, and a good friend of mine, this young guitar player, Sammy Bowler, who's an amazing instrumentalist and an amazing guitar player, released his albums in vinyl himself, and he goes, "Man, I got to tell you, I made a considerable amount of money off the vinyl."
Really?
He's like, people bought the vinyl and I made a profit, which is, and in this day and age, that says a lot.
That's good.
Because like no one makes a profit on their music anymore. It's like, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's a different world now than when
different world.
Ask Jay. Come on, man. Be a little respectful. Hey, Richie, longtime fan. Wanted to ask how baked you were during your Rock Chops video. And how you were able to still play. You looked well also.
I've never been baked. I was never much of a pot smoker, and I never had done any drugs in my teens. I waited till later in life to experiment with that. I was not baked at all.
There you go. Ponder OG. First saw you at Tone Merchants during NAMM, I think 04 or 05. Lifelong fan ever since, and so cool to see you on Tone Talk.
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
It's so funny because Tone Merchants is a company that I'm in partners with much later than the time 04 and 05. But Tone Merchants, is still in existence technically.
That's good.
You're Tone Merchants.
Yeah, I mean, I partnered with a client, this guy, Rob Navarrete, who bought Tone Merchants. And I mean, this must have been in the 2009 or something, which was way after this. And that then formed Friedman Amps, and that formed all this stuff. So
cool.
Interesting.
Yep.
Awesome.
Taylor KD, whatever. Thanks for the super chat. Great show tonight, Mark and Dave. Richie, do you ever use a pick or do you play with your thumb, etc., exclusively? Love your playing. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I do both. It's always been both. But what has happened is that over the years when I tour, I went through a long phase of not taking guitar picks on the road, and I made that decision many years ago because I was feeling like I had played myself into a creative corner, and I wanted something to shake up my situation. So I got on stage without a guitar pick one night in Brazil, and it seemed to be inspiring for me. And so from there, I kept with it. But in recent time, the last 2 years, I started traveling with guitar picks again, and I'll use a pick on certain songs now, whereas for many years, I wouldn't even have them around.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Yeah, I mean, certain songs for sure it calls for, right? You know, like a pick on a certain song calls for a certain thing, but
it sounds different. It was a fun thing for me to do to kind of expand my vocabulary, and I was feeling a bit trapped creatively, like I was playing a lot of the same, had a lot of the same approach to my improvisation, and I didn't really like how I felt, and so I thought, well, I got to change something, and I'm not going to get any better by practicing one night in a hotel room, so let me do something disruptive. And the disruption was to try to play the same set without a guitar pick one night in Brazil, and it worked. And so from there, I kind of did it. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this. So you said for years you lived above the baked potato.
Yeah.
So obviously you probably saw a lot of shows below in the baked potato over the years, right?
Not a lot. No, I played there quite a bit, but I didn't really go. I'm not a big go to shows guy for some reason, like going to live music. But, well, what were you going to ask me?
Well, I was like, would you ever consider doing sort of a free form thing at the baked potato with someone?
Oh, I did. I used to when I lived back there. I did. I played there quite a bit. Yeah. There was a whole couple of years where I really played there quite a bit, and it was a lot of fun. And I always joked, I have the best dressing room in the world because my house is
your house.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
because I mean, I have a friend of mine that works for me and stuff, Jamie, who also plays with Danny Carey there a lot from Tool.
Oh yeah, I know Danny.
And he plays with Jamie plays with him a lot, and it's just like I'm always like, let's shake this business up a little bit. Let's do something different, and let's get some other people like flowing into the scene every once in a while,
Absolutely. It's a great place to play. I love it.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for having me.
You got it, Ron.
I love talking to you guys. Do you have any more questions from the kids out there?
Oh yeah, we got plenty. We got at least 8 more questions.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. All right.
Let's knock through the 8. Let's go through the 8 and we'll get out of here.
Okay. Ryan Casey, thanks for the super chat. Richie, do you prefer old strings at your New Orleans gig? I saw you change the one string in progress while playing. Never saw that before. Awesome. Do you prefer worn strings over new ones?
Okay. Yeah. So I am notorious. I describe myself as notorious. In my own mind, I am notorious for not changing my strings very often. I don't really, first of all, I don't like the process of changing strings, but that's what a guitar technician is for. But I actually like an older set. They seem to hold tune better. And so I don't change them very often. No, I don't. And I was joking on that tour. I kept making a joke because I went through like half the tour on the same set of strings. So that was like, I don't know.
That's awesome.
25 shows with the same strings. And I kept joking about it. And finally, on the last show of the tour, or second to the last show, was New Orleans. And I broke a freaking string in the song. And so I thought, I'm going to see if I can change it while I'm on stage playing the song. And I did. I changed it.
Awesome.
I just stopped playing and started singing. It worked because the song had a part where the guitar dropped out anyway.
Right.
So I'm singing the verse, pull the string, flip it out, changing, And so I did do that, and that gentleman was there to see it. So
that's like real.
Yeah.
It's like a real thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like, here's my guitar tech, fix this. No, you're just like fucking doing it for real.
Yeah. Daryl Bibler, I didn't see a question from you, so I don't know what to ask. Walrus, thanks for the super chat. Dave, some say the BE50 has less gain than one. Oh, we already asked that.
No, it's not true.
S Stinger, Dave, how similar is the tone and gain style in the S100 V2 and the new?
Not the same at all.
Okay,
really, it's a totally different thing.
Ryan Casey, Dave, how do you compare the IRX to modelers? Does it get those dynamics? How do you feel about that?
No, the thing is, like, so Richie, I came out with these pedals that are tube-based direct solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the deal with the tube-based direct solutions is it still has the dynamics of a tube. Like something, it's this little pedal that goes direct, right? Okay. For the people that have to go direct without cabinets or anything, I came out with a solution that actually is dynamic and has real tubes involved with it. So do you get those dynamics? Yes, for the most part. You don't get the volume and the dynamics, the interaction of a speaker. Okay. That's different. And wait, what are you saying? How do you feel about the
into a power section of
okay, you know what? If you're putting into the power section of a decent tube amp, you are then at least getting some sort of interaction like with real speakers. So yes, that'll be fine.
Okay.
But the little preamp pedals are great for the best of both worlds, kind of, if you have to.
Yeah, and also
I make amps too, you know what I mean? but like if you have to, you know what I mean? Like it
responds well to the volume knob too.
The IRX compared to modelers is vastly different. Yeah. It gives you the dynamics and the roll off that you can roll off the guitar volume and it reacts like an amplifier would of a similar architecture. It's a true high voltage front end preamp. It's cool.
That sounds cool. You can record with it, I assume, right?
Yes, you can do a direct. You can do a direct. You know what? I'll be happy to send you one to check out if you wanted to listen to it.
Yeah,
or whatever. Yeah, or we can get together one day and I can bring them to you or whatever.
Yeah. Let's do that. That'd be great.
Yeah, like just to check them out. I'd be interested on your input on it. You can tell me this is shit if you want.
No,
I'd love that actually. I would actually like that because I love input like that kind of stuff. So it's like
sure I'd like
okay.
What dog
power guitar? What dog do you have, Richie?
I have a Doberman Pinscher, and he's with natural ears and a full-length tail.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, nice.
You didn't chop them off.
I didn't chop them off.
We've
had Dobermans that had cropped ears and docked tails, but we've rescued 3 Dobermans. And I had one when I was a child. My father had one. So it's a great dog, and he's very loving, and he's definitely a guard dog, but he's well trained. I mean, I invested, my wife and I invested quite a bit in him. So
awesome.
He's a great dog. Yeah.
That's awesome. Fantastic.
Zeke Downey, thanks for the super chat. You're a fantastic player and an inspiration for many players. Nice to hear another Zeke story. And thanks, Dave, for the service on my JJ100.
Awesome, Zeke. Good to
Thank
see.
you.
Good to hear from you.
Fowler 8989. What's the latest on
Oh my
Dave's
God!
closing
Just
up?
give me a break.
I guess
Look, man. Look, I'm gonna do some of those. Give me just a second. We're like in the midst of this Jose thing.
okay. Robert Baker, what's going on? Any chance of a 20-year anniversary of the Go Faster album where you play the album front to back live? So many cool deep cuts on that album.
That would be a good album to do that with. That would be a real good one. And I wish I could bring in my buddy Arlen, who played organ on that album, because that would be a fun thing to do as a 4-piece.
Do it.
Yeah, maybe we will. I don't know what year that came out. That's 2008 or something, I think. So I got some time to figure it out.
Yeah, do it, man.
Michelle Holland, thanks for the super chat. I see the other one below. Tell Richie congratulations for landing songs on the Outbreak movie soundtrack. Will there be more movie soundtracks in the future?
Oh, that happened really organically. My friend directed that film, and it all worked out. And I would love to do more of that in the future. Absolutely.
What year was that?
Just came out now. It was
Oh,
number
really?
2. It was a number 2 movie on Hulu for a few weeks. It's a bit of a streaming hit. A movie called Outbreak, and it's got a really interesting twist. It's a great film. My friend directed it, Jeff Wolf, and I believe he co-wrote it. And it's a great movie, and they used 2 of my songs in the film, so it's very cool. And but to answer Michelle, I would definitely love to do more of that. Very cool.
That's great. Well, I think we've gone through all the super chats.
All right.
And let's see. I'm not sure where Dave went. But yeah, we have gone through all the questions. Let's see. Music Therapy Laz. Happy Friday, everybody. And your internet is finally like clear, which is good. Towards the end of the show. No, your internet was kind of in and out here and there, but we heard you all the time, but your video was kind of.
Is that me you're saying?
Yeah. It was a little.
The video was a little foggy, but you were fine audio wise.
It's where I live. We the internet here is not coming by a major however people we're getting it beamed in a very strange way, so sometimes it's a little shushlik.
That's all right. Well, I want to thank you, Richie, for coming on the show. It was fantastic to talk to you and get to know you and hear some amazing stories. Looking forward to seeing you when you get back out on the road. And guys, make sure you check out Richie's stuff. Check out his new Stratocaster from Fender that just came out, and all the gear and
the auction.
Yeah,
check out the auction.
Yeah, the auction is at NextBid, NEX Bid. So check that out if you guys want to buy some of Richie's gear.
Yeah,
memorabilia, gear, whatever.
I'll be coming hopefully to your town. I'm going on tour in October. Me and John 5, we're doing a double billing. He was just here the other day. We were talking about our evil plans, and
I've known John for years, man.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. We kick off in El Cajon and work our way across the country. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And then, of course, Smith Kotzen. Can't forget that. We're kicking off the Smith Kotzen tour February 3rd on my birthday in Spain. Is the first show.
Awesome.
And so that's a lot of fun. And so it's me, obviously Adrian Smith. My wife, Julia Laggi, is playing bass.
Wow.
And Bruno Valverde as the drummer. So we have a Brazilian rhythm section. So beware.
Cool.
Shit's
Oh,
going to be
cool.
good. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And if you're ever over here, cross at Mates, let me know.
I will.
Say hi.
Yeah.
I'll come say hi.
Say hello. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate
of course,
it.
man.
Yeah, thanks Ryan Casey for the super chat here. It was a great show. We appreciate Richie coming on. Yeah, guys, have a great weekend. Richie, just hang on while we say goodbye.
Okay.
Next show will be Ask Dave, I believe. No, I forget what.
No, next show I think will be an Ask Dave, and then
Dina,
and then after that we have Mick Sweeta from Bullet Boys. And a few other bands.
So I guess that's on July 18th.
Yeah.
So
and then I'm going to be out of town right after that. So that's why there's only 2 in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Everybody have a great weekend. And Rich, just hang on 1 second.
Thanks.
See you.